Welcome to the newly named Manifesting Millions podcast. Welcome to 2023. Welcome to January. It's been a pretty epic few weeks in my life. It's been a few months since I've last recorded a podcast episode. We've made some changes. By we, I mean me, myself, and I. And yeah, highly overdue for an update. So I'm excited to sit down with you today and share just a few things that are on my mind, some of the fun things that have manifested into my reality, and give you an insight as to where my intention is for us to go together. So if you are new to the podcast, if this is your first episode, I am Amy. What do I tell you about myself? I live in Canada. I'm a true mountain girl. I love to ski. I'm a big fan of cars. And those are probably the big things. Check out some past episodes if you feel called to. But the podcast is much more about what can I share with you than who am I. So let's dive into some of the fun things. Actually, let me share some life updates. So I think on the last episode, or maybe a couple episodes ago, I talked about our trip to Greece. So my love and I went to Greece for a few weeks. It was amazing. Highly recommend. The food was delicious. The ocean was amazing. Oh my goodness. It was a true dream come true. Since then, in some ways, not a lot has changed. And in some ways, some big things have changed. So over the holidays, it's currently January 17th, 16th. And over the holidays, my partner proposed. We are engaged. It's a very exciting time in our lives. So I now have been practicing and having fun with calling him my fiance. Yay. Was honestly a huge dream come true. So we've been together for 10 years, which is a long time in some ways, and in other ways doesn't feel like that long at all. And I've dreamt for as long as I can remember what the proposal would be like. I said to him, I didn't give a ton of insight as to like what it needed to be like, because I wanted him to come up with whatever he thought would be lovely. And I just said, I want it to be personal. I want it to be something that shows that you've put some thought into it. And outside of that, like the world is your oyster. So he proposed mid-mountain on the ski hill on Christmas Day, which if you know me at all, you know that is the perfect way to ask me to share your life with you. So that's pretty fun. That happened over Christmas, and getting used to, it took a few weeks to get used to having a ring on my finger. It's kind of wild. It's been fun to share the news with people, and honestly, actually, one of the great joys was receiving the joy and the love from others. Like just hearing and seeing how excited they are for us. Like that was pretty wild. I'm not gonna lie. That's kind of a really neat, totally unexpected offshoot of sharing this news. Outside of that, I think not a ton has changed. Still have my full-time job, which I talk about from time to time on the podcast. I've shared moments about my weight release journey. So we're at around 52 pounds released over the last little over a year. So that's exciting. And we're full on in planning a wedding. So that's a little bit about me. Some fun things that have showed up. You may have noticed, if you've been listening for a while, that I have renamed the podcast. So used to be called Dare to Begin Small and Mighty. And I had a download a few months ago that a shift was coming. I could feel it brewing. I've been feeling, honestly, the back half of 2022, I could feel this groundswell. I don't know how else to describe it. A groundswell of a change coming. Lots of things getting ready to emerge. And I've been really tuning into what does that mean? What does that look like? What do I need to do? All that kind of stuff, and doing some deep reflection and learning and healing and all the things that are involved in new things emerging, I suppose is the best way to say it. So I received this download to shift into manifesting millions. And I want to unpack that a tiny bit. So your gut reaction might be similar to mine, which is, okay, so we're manifesting millions of dollars, which is true. And it's not the full truth. What I wanted to shift as I started to think about my intention for this podcast and for where I wanted to go and what I wanted to create in the world and what I wanted to bring to each of you is millions of anything, like manifesting millions of anything, millions of dollars. Sure, maybe it's millions of clients. Maybe that's what your goal is. Maybe it's just millions of, minutes of happiness, or I don't know, like it could be truly anything, millions of miles. Maybe you want to travel a lot, So I've kept it at manifesting millions, and that is going to be, call it our core tenet. We're going to be talking about manifestation much more on the podcast. I'm going to be touching on all kinds of topics. I'm still such a fan of money, so there will be lots more episodes coming talking about money and things that I'm learning and all of that jazz. So if you're intrigued by that, please stay tuned. If you joined the podcast originally because of business, we're still going to be peppering that in from time to time. It just won't be the core focus of the podcast anymore. I've got some ideas. I want to bring on some guests, talk about things that they're manifesting. What are their millions that they're working to manifest in? I've had some really, truly spectacular conversations over the last probably 2 months, and I'm excited to bring a few people on the podcast. If you are listening and you are interested in being a guest on the podcast, reach out to me on Instagram. You can find me at I Dare to Begin. That's, I believe, still currently my handle. I will post in the show notes if things change, but stay tuned to future episodes as well. But I'm looking for guests, people who are intrigued to provide value to others, share some about their journey, and share in a very general, hand-wavy sense, what are the millions of XYZ that you're looking to manifest in. And then another download that I've received over the last little bit is to actually do some meditations. So you'll see some meditations show up on the podcast as well. I will make sure that the episode name is very clearly all capital letters, meditation, with an idea of what that meditation is going to be about. I intend to record one today, so you'll see that coming out after this episode, probably in about a week after this episode, give or take. And then the goal is to be a lot more consistent and present with you. Now I'm going to use consistent loosely. What I found in the past is what we're taught. Let me back up a little bit. What we're taught is that we need to be consistent, as in like every day, every week, every month, we need to do this thing. It has to be this way in order for your business to grow, your podcast to grow, your life to grow, your goals to be manifested, whatever. And where I've struggled with that is that there are times that I just have like nothing to say, or I don't feel like I have anything of value to share at that moment. Maybe I'm deep in some healing, or like there's just, life is just kind of nutty. I mean, there's so many reasons why there could be that break, and I always struggled with that in the past. And I went like, how am I ever going to get to my goals if I can't even record a podcast every week, right? But you don't listen just to hear me talk, I assume. I assume you're here because you're wanting to get some value. Well, in order to create value, I need to be in a place that I can actually give you some value. And recently, I think I was working through one of my courses, or it might have been actually listening to another podcast. I can't remember exactly, but the person I was listening to was talking about consistency and how they realized that there's different flows for consistency, and I think it ties a little bit into human design. There are people in the world who are absolutely that call it like cookie cutter consistent. They do it every day, every week, every month, every whatever. They love doing it. They know they need to do it. They're in flow when they do it, and that's just how they operate. And then there's someone like me, or this person that I was listening to, that was saying that, like, but that doesn't feel in flow for me at all. It was such a mind opening moment to hear that, and almost receive permission to operate in a way that is consistent with my values and consistent with my energy flow, but also be like, it's okay if you're not here every week. Focus on bringing value into the world and being intentional with what you're putting out, instead of just putting out stuff for the sake of putting out stuff. So when I say consistent, I mean to show up regularly with intention. And that might mean that you're going to suddenly see flurries of podcast episodes where you're like, whoa. And then you might have times where there's just going to be a break for a little while I'm off learning or integrating or healing, or who knows, getting married, things like that. So I'm excited. And then the last thing that I wanted to share is that I am working on I haven't quite decided what it's going to be. I think it's going to be a masterclass, actually, is what I think it's going to be. All about manifesting millions of moments of joy. One of the things that I've been really paying attention to in all my conversations, whether they're social interactions with friends or conversations at work, or even just like hearing news snippets, when my fiance is listening to the news, or he doesn't really listen to the news, but he watches YouTube videos with like new and emerging information, which I guess is the news. He doesn't do mainstream media, is I suppose kind of what I'm thinking about. But anyway, I digress. What I've noticed is we're constantly in a state of struggle and lack. And it's a really tough place to be. It's not fun for anybody. It can be bonding in a way, but it's kind of like complain bonding. So if you think about when you maybe start a new job or meet new people, or just kind of randomly meet a group of strangers, the fastest way for humans to create some kind of a connection with the other is to complain about something. It could be literally anything. It could be the weather. It could be the length of the lineup. It could be the fact that, it's, I don't know, woe is us, the service used to be better. It could literally be anything. But pay attention as you're out and about, and listen to the conversations, especially watch for if someone, like a random stranger, strikes up a conversation with you, kind of pay attention to the topic. What are they saying? Are they like, wow, this is amazing, I'm so grateful for this, or whatever? Where I actually noticed that happen the most, which is maybe part of why I love it so much, is on the ski hill. Rarely do I find myself engaged in a conversation that just strikes up out of nowhere on the chairlift, where someone's like, this is just crap and I can't believe this and da-da-da-da. Most of those conversations start with, wow, isn't it an amazing day? Isn't the hill in great shape? Aren't you having a great time? That's typically how those conversations begin, and then off you go into talking about whatever it is you're talking about. But there's such joy in that. So when I got to thinking about what can I create and what does the world really need, I'm going to be doing some courses in the future about money. I'll probably do some about manifesting and manifestation just in general, kind of going a little bit further in the deep end in that. But what I realized is, one of the questions was, what have I created very successfully in my life that calms the ego? So if I'm creating something, I'm not constantly fighting against this voice saying, who are you to teach this anyway? You don't know anything about this. You haven't created this in your own life. So how the heck do you think you're going to teach anybody? But also provides tremendous value into the world. You're going to hear me talk about that a lot, obviously, this episode, and probably in future episodes as well, this idea of creating value. And what does the world need? Like, where, if I were to take those 3 points as an intersection, what falls into that center triangle? And what I realized was the world really needs more joy. We're not taught how to create joy in our life. In fact, I would argue that we are taught to ignore it, to get rid of it, to not get used to it. Don't take it for, not only don't take it for granted, that's actually not quite what I'm thinking, but like, don't assume it's going to continue. You know, like how often have you had in your life where things are going really great and you're like, wow, like I have this great job, I just got a raise, my relationship is going great, I feel great in my body. Oh my gosh, I just, I'm getting ready to go on this trip to blah 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 blah, and then the thought trickles in of, oh my God, when is this all going to go sideways? What's going to happen next? How is this going to go badly? That is what we're taught. Now, part of it is pure survival brain. Your limbic brain, the oldest part of your brain, is what it's the oldest because it's what we had when we were very prehistoric, right? Things still kind of half bent over and very furry. That part of the brain is fully focused on survival. When we're still living in, and maybe not, we weren't even in caves yet, but when we were definitely living in caves, we had to be paying attention for survival. You couldn't just sit there and be like, oh, life is amazing, this is great, and not pay attention to what's around you because you could be eaten by a lion or some other, carnivorous animal creeping around you. So we have this innate survival mechanism built in us. But of course, over the millennia, we have evolved. Our brains have evolved. We have our prefrontal cortex, which is where our consciousness lives and where we, I would say, primarily in our day-to-day operate from within, if we take out the whole conversation about subconscious beliefs and programming. And that's the part of the brain that we're still working on. Like it's very, very new. It's actually very young if you think about just the overall development of how long humans have been around comparative to how long the prefrontal cortex has been around. So when I think about joy, I mean, sure, I can almost guarantee that our furthest back ancestors experienced joy. I do believe it's one of our core emotions that I think has just always been there. If you want to go really basic, you feel joy when you're having an orgasm, right? Necessary, at least for males. Not absolutely necessary for females to reproduce, but necessary for males to reproduce. And yeah, like I think it's also a bonding when you feel that love and connection. Like joy is part of what helps build that love and connection. So I do believe joy is a core emotion, but we're definitely not. We're not socialized in the world today to really embrace it, to find more. The closest I've seen is the sort of the focus on like enjoy what you have now, be grateful for what you have now, which the subtext is always because you never know how long it's going to last. Or don't be greedy, be joyful for what you have, therefore don't be greedy about it. There's always this sort of low vibe subtext that sits underneath it. What I'm talking about is joy, sheer joy for the sake of joy, millions of moments of joy, whatever that looks like, and how to create more joy in your life, because you actually can. Just like you can create more strife and struggle and frustration in your life if you're really determined to do so, you can create more joy, you can create more happiness, you can create more freedom. And one of the things that I'm most excited about as I was thinking about this topic and building out the course is that joy is really the gateway emotion to manifesting. When we think about, call up in your mind right now something that you really want to manifest. Maybe it's money's an easy one. Maybe you want to bring in like an extra $50,000 a year. And you're like, ooh, that feels good, right? So you start to think about what does that money mean? What would it look like? What would your life look like if you had that? generally speaking, most of the emotions that you're feeling are going to be rooted in the beginning of joy. It feels good to go on the trip. It feels good to be able to pay my bills. It feels good to XYZ, whatever it is, right? Joy is the root of it. Gratitude is rooted in joy. When we think about gratitude, it's a sense of thankfulness, but you're thankful because it's a good thing, right? Like, we're not often, as you sort of evolve in your practice and your knowledge and your healing, you can absolutely, and I definitely am there myself, where you can be grateful for those moments where things have gone completely sideways, but you're not like, I'm enjoying this thoroughly. You're like, okay, this has shown up for a reason. It's here to teach me something, heal something, surface something, point my eyes into like a belief that needs correcting or something. But I'm not loving this. This isn't a joyful moment for me. But when we think about the things that we want to create, joy is usually one of those big grounding core emotions that sits underneath that we may not necessarily pay attention to. So so I'm creating a masterclass on manifesting millions of moments of joy. Please stay tuned. I will be sharing more about how you can sign up for that. What I will say is that it's probably going to launch fairly soon. And I want to really thank and reward my earliest signups. So if you're like, ooh, that sounds kind of juicy, Amy, tell me more. Stay tuned to the podcast and I'll share with you how you can sign up for the class. I'm excited about it. And with that, I think I just realized that I'm using GarageBand to record, a little bit different than I was doing the last few episodes. And I haven't fully set up my GarageBand, so I don't actually have a concept of how long you and I have been sitting here together. All it says is 661, which means nothing to me. So I need to update my settings so that I can actually see how many minutes I've been here with you. Mostly not because I'm not trying to like reach a certain amount of length of time, but I do want to make sure that you're not like, oh my God, Amy, you've been talking for like 45 minutes about one thing, and that one thing could have been covered in 5 minutes. So that's my goal. All right. Thank you. If you've been listening to the podcast for a while, I super appreciate you listening. It honestly just lights my heart up when I hear someone in casual conversation refer to, oh, I heard you say blah, blah, blah on your podcast, and tell me more about that. It's so joyful to me. If you like this episode, please share it out. I'm going to practice on getting better at like, bring us the reviews, share the stars, all that jazz. But your support is not only greatly appreciated, it brings joy into my life. So thank you for that. With that, have a wonderful week ahead. And I'm friggin' excited for 2023. That groundswell that I've been feeling in the back half, really, and actually probably even earlier than that, of 2022. I'm seeing it show up in so many ways, and not just in my life. I've talked to countless people over the last few weeks who are just like, it's going to be a good year. Don't know why, but I just feel things a-brewing. So 2023, it's the year of us. Let's do it. Talk to you soon. Bye.